In a quiet corner of a bustling city, nestled among towering skyscrapers and busy streets, stood a small but elegant jewelry store. Its windows sparkled with diamonds, gold, and silver, catching the sunlight in ways that made passers-by stop and admire. It wasn't the kind of place where crowds gathered. Instead, it attracted people who appreciated beauty, craftsmanship, and timeless elegance. The staff at the store were known for their professionalism and attention to detail, making every customer feel valued. Among them was Lisa, a young woman in her mid-20s with a warm smile and an eye for perfection. Lisa had been working at the store for nearly 2 years. She loved her job, not just because of the beautiful pieces she handled daily, but also because of the sense of accomplishment she felt when helping customers find exactly what they were looking for. Whether it was a gift for a loved one or a special treat for themselves, Lisa took pride in ensuring each visitor left happy. Her colleagues admired her work ethic, and even the boss, Marcus Carter, had praised her dedication more than once. This particular morning, Lisa arrived early to prepare for the day ahead. She unlocked the door, flipped on the lights, and began arranging necklaces and bracelets behind the glass counters. The store smelled faintly of polish and leather from the display cases, a scent Lisa had grown fond of over time. As she worked, she hummed softly to herself, lost in thought about the upcoming weekend plans with her friends. Around 10 o'clock, the first customer of the day walked in, a man named Greg. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive suit that screamed wealth. His presence filled the room instantly, though not in a comforting way. There was something about him that felt off, as if he carried an invisible cloud of arrogance wherever he went. When Lisa greeted him warmly, he barely acknowledged her, nodding curtly before heading straight to the ring section. Greg moved slowly, his eyes scanning the displays with a critical gaze. Occasionally, he picked up a piece, examined it briefly, then set it back down without comment. Lisa approached, him cautiously offering assistance. "Good morning," she said politely. "Is there anything specific you're looking for today?" Greg glanced at her briefly, his expression unreadable. "I'm just browsing," he replied, his tone clipped. Lisa nodded and stepped back, giving him space while keeping an eye on him from afar. Something about his demeanor made her uneasy, though she couldn't quite put her finger on why. As Greg continued browsing, other customers began trickling into the store. A young couple came in hand, giggling softly as they admired engagement rings. An older woman browsed earrings near the window, occasionally glancing outside at the passing cars. Everything seemed normal, until another employee arrived. Maya, a confident teenager interning at the store during her summer break, entered with a cheerful wave. She was black, with curly hair pulled back into a high ponytail and a bright smile that lit up the room. Maya had only been working there for a few weeks, but she had already proven herself capable and hardworking. Like Lisa, she had a knack for connecting with customers, making them feel welcome and understood. When Maya noticed Greg lingering by the rings, she approached him with her usual enthusiasm. "Hi there. Can I help you with anything?" she asked brightly. Greg turned to face her, his lips curling into a faint sneer. For a moment he said nothing, simply staring at her as if sizing her up. Then, with a dismissive wave, he muttered, "No thanks." Maya didn't let his rudeness deter her. Instead, she smiled wider and said, "If you change your mind, feel free to ask. I'd be happy to assist you." With that, she walked away, joining Lisa behind the counter. They exchanged a quick glance, silently agreeing that Greg was difficult to say the least. Over the next hour, Greg's behavior grew increasingly unsettling. Every time a black or brown customer entered the store, he would mutter under his breath, shaking his head disapprovingly. At one point, he loudly complained to no one in particular about how some people shouldn't be allowed in places like this. His words were vague enough to avoid outright confrontation, yet sharp enough to sting. Lisa tried to ignore him, focusing instead on helping the other customers. Maya, however, couldn't help but notice the tension building in the room. Despite Greg's obvious disdain, she remained professional, determined not to let him ruin her day. But little did she know, Things were about to take a dramatic turn. Greg eventually returned to the ring section, picking up a delicate gold band and holding it up to the light. Maya, sensing an opportunity to assist, approached him once more. "That's a beautiful choice," she said kindly. "It's part of our new collection." Greg's eyes narrowed as he looked at her. "You think I need your opinion?" he snapped. "I can see perfectly fine on my own." Maya blinked, momentarily taken aback by his hostility, but she quickly recovered, replying calmly, "Of course. I was just trying to help." "Well, don't," Greg shot back, his voice rising slightly. "People like you should stick to what you're good at." The insult hung in the air like a dark cloud, heavy and suffocating. Maya's cheeks flushed, but she forced herself to remain composed. "If you have any questions, I'll be right here," she said, stepping back respectfully. For a few minutes, everything seemed to settle down. Greg resumed examining the rings, muttering to himself occasionally. But then, without warning, he reached across the counter and grabbed a pair of diamond earrings from the display case. Startled, Maya instinctively reached out to stop him. "Excuse me," she said firmly. "Those are still in the display. Please don't touch them unless you're ready to purchase." Greg froze, his fingers tightening around the earrings. Slowly, he turned to face her, his expression darkening. "What did you just say to me?" he growled. "I said those items need to stay inside the case until you decide to buy them," Maya repeated, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. "It's store policy." Greg stared at her for a long moment, his jaw clenched. Then, without warning, he slapped her hand hard enough to make her flinch. The sound echoed through the otherwise silent store, drawing gasps from nearby customers. Lisa rushed over immediately, her heart pounding. "What do you think you're doing?" Lisa demanded, her voice trembling with anger. "You can't hit someone." Greg ignored her, turning his glare back to Maya. "Don't ever speak to me like that again," he snarled. "You don't know who I am." Before anyone could respond, the door swung open, and a familiar figure stepped inside. It was Marcus Carter, the owner of the jewelry store, and Maya's father. Tall, imposing, and radiating authority, Marcus took in the scene at a glance. His piercing gaze landed on Greg, who suddenly looked far less confident than he had moments ago. "Is there a problem here?" Marcus asked, his voice low and calm. But beneath the surface, there was a storm brewing, one that promised to change everything. The atmosphere in the jewelry store shifted instantly when Marcus Carter walked in. His presence commanded attention, not just because he was the owner, but because of the quiet power he exuded. Dressed in a tailored navy blue suit with a crisp, white shirt, Marcus was a man who didn't need to raise his voice to be heard. His graying hair and sharp features gave him an air of authority that made even the most unruly customers think twice before acting out. When Marcus spoke, his tone calm yet firm, it felt like the entire room froze. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his eyes scanning the scene. The question hung heavy in the air, directed at Greg, whose face had turned pale. Lisa, still standing protectively beside Maya, quickly stepped forward to explain what had happened. "Sir," Lisa began, her voice trembling slightly. "This man, he grabbed something from the display case without permission, and when Maya tried to stop him, he slapped her hand." Marcus's gaze hardened as he looked at Greg. "Is this true?" he asked, his tone icy. Greg stammered, clearly unprepared for the sudden confrontation. He glanced around the room, perhaps hoping someone would come to his defense, but all he found were hostile stares from the other customers and employees. I wasn't doing anything wrong," Greg finally managed to say, though his voice lacked conviction. "She disrespected me first." Maya, who had been silent until now, spoke up softly but firmly. "I was just explaining the store policy, Dad," she said, addressing Marcus directly. "He reached into the display case and I reminded him that items need to stay inside unless they're being purchased. That's when he hit me." Greg's face flushed red, either from embarrassment or anger. It was hard to tell. "That's not how it happened," he snapped, pointing an accusatory finger at Maya. "She was rude and disrespectful. I'm the victim here." Marcus raised a hand, silencing Greg mid-sentence. There was no mistaking the cold fury in his eyes as he turned back to his daughter. "Let me see your hand," he said gently. Maya hesitated for a moment before extending her arm. Marcus examined it carefully, his jaw tightening as he saw the red mark left by Greg's slap. Though it wasn't severe, the injury was undeniable proof of what had transpired. For a few seconds, Marcus said nothing. He simply stood there, his expression unreadable, while the tension in the room continued to build. Then, without warning, he turned back to Greg, his voice low and dangerous. "Do you have any idea who you're dealing with?" he asked. Greg blinked, confused by the question. "What do you mean?" Marcus took a step closer, towering over Greg. "That young woman you just assaulted is my daughter," he said, his words cutting through the silence like a knife. "And let me make one thing very clear. You don't talk to her like that, you don't touch her, and you certainly don't walk into my store and act like you own the place." The color drained from Greg's face as realization dawned on him. For a brief moment he seemed paralyzed, unable to process what he had done. But then panic set in. "Wait, your daughter? Oh God, I didn't know, I swear it was all a misunderstanding." He blurted out, his voice rising in desperation. "I'll apologize, I'll do whatever you want, just please don't call the police." Marcus ignored Greg's pleas, instead turning to address the rest of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, raising his voice slightly so everyone could hear, "I deeply apologize for the disruption caused today. This kind of behavior will not be tolerated in my establishment, and I assure you that appropriate action will be taken." The customers nodded approvingly, some whispering among themselves about how impressed they were with Marcus's handling of the situation. One elderly woman patted Maya on the shoulder reassuringly, saying, "You handled yourself beautifully, dear. Don't let anyone treat you poorly." Maya forced a small smile, though her hands were still trembling slightly. Meanwhile, Greg continued to plead his case, growing more frantic by the second. "Please, Mr. Carter, give me another chance. I promise I'll never come back here again. I didn't mean to cause trouble, I just lost my temper for a moment." Marcus held up a hand, silencing Greg once more. "Enough," he said firmly. "You've already said and done enough damage for one day. I want you to leave my store immediately, and if I ever see you here again, I won't hesitate to involve the authorities." Without waiting for Greg to respond, Marcus gestured to two male employees standing nearby. "Escort him out," he instructed. The men nodded and moved toward Greg, who backed away nervously. "No, wait, I can go myself," he protested weakly, but the employees weren't taking any chances. They flanked him on either side and guided him toward the door, ignoring his protests. As Greg stumbled out of the store, muttering apologies under his breath, Marcus watched him go with a mixture of anger and disgust. Once the door closed behind him, the tension in the room began to ease. Customers resumed their shopping, albeit with hushed conversations about what had just occurred. Lisa returned to her duties, though she couldn't help glancing at Maya every few minutes to check on her. Marcus, however, wasn't done yet. He placed a protective arm around Maya's shoulders and led her toward the back office. "Come with me," he said gently. "We need to talk." Inside the office, Marcus closed the door behind them, ensuring they wouldn't be disturbed. He gestured for Maya to sit down, then pulled up a chair across from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Maya stared at her hands, which were clasped tightly in her lap, while Marcus studied her face, searching for signs of distress. Finally, he broke the silence. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice softening. "Did he hurt you anywhere else besides your hand?" Maya shook her head. "No, Dad, I'm fine," she replied, though her voice wavered slightly. "It just startled me, that's all. I wasn't expecting him to react like that." Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I should have been here sooner," he said, guilt evident in his tone. "If I'd known what was going on, I would have stopped him before things got this far." "It's not your fault," Maya insisted, looking up at him. "You can't always be here to protect me. Besides, I handled it, or at least I tried to." Marcus smiled faintly, pride flickering in his eyes. You did handle it, he agreed. You stayed calm and professional even when he was being completely unreasonable. That takes strength, Maya. Don't ever forget that. Maya nodded, feeling a small sense of relief wash over her. Still, she couldn't shake the lingering unease brought on by Greg's actions. Do you think he'll try to come back? She asked hesitantly. No, Marcus replied firmly. Not if he knows what's good for him. But just in case, we'll keep an eye out. And if he does show his face again, we'll deal with him. Accordingly, they sat in silence for a few more moments, each lost in their thoughts. Finally, Marcus leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Listen, Maya, he began, his tone serious. What happened today isn't just about you or me. It's about something bigger. People like Greg, they think they can get away with treating others badly because of their race, their gender, or whatever else they use to justify their prejudice. But we can't let them win. We have to stand up against that kind of behavior, no matter how uncomfortable it makes us feel. Maya listened intently, nodding slowly. I know, Dad, she said. But sometimes it feels like no matter what I do, people like him will always find a way to bring me down. That's why we fight back, Marcus said, his voice filled with determination. Not with violence or hatred, but with truth and justice. Today you showed courage by standing your ground. Tomorrow we'll show the world that racism has consequences. With that, Marcus stood up and extended a hand to Maya. Now let's get back out there, he said with a reassuring smile. There's work to be done. As they returned to the main part of the store, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. What had started as a humiliating and painful experience was now transforming into something greater. A chance to prove that love, respect, and equality could triumph over ignorance and hate. And with her father by her side, she knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead together. After the confrontation in the jewelry store, Marcus Carter wasted no time. He knew that what had happened wasn't just a private matter, it was a public issue that needed to be addressed. Racism and prejudice thrived in silence, but Marcus was determined to shine a light on Greg's actions and send a clear message. Such behavior would not be tolerated. As soon as he stepped back into the main part of the store, Marcus called his employees together for a quick meeting. Listen up, he said, his tone firm yet reassuring. What happened today is unacceptable, and I want everyone to know that we're going to take action. This isn't just about Maya or our store. It's about standing up for what's right. Lisa nodded eagerly, her earlier fear replaced by determination. How can we help, Mr. Carter? She asked. Marcus smiled faintly at her enthusiasm. First, we need to document everything. Lisa, please write down exactly what you witnessed, including any details you remember about Greg's behavior. Same goes for anyone else who saw what happened. Turning to Maya, he added gently, and Maya, if you're comfortable, I'd like you to do the same. Your account will be crucial. Maya hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I'll do it, she said softly. Though reliving the incident made her uneasy, she understood its importance. If they wanted justice, they needed proof. While the employees began writing their statements, Marcus retreated to his office to review the store's security footage. The cameras were installed primarily to prevent theft, but today they had captured something far more sinister. As Marcus watched the recording, his jaw tightened. There was no denying what had occurred. Greg's aggressive body language, his dismissive remarks, and finally, the slap across Maya's hand were all crystal clear. With the evidence in hand, Marcus drafted a press release. He knew the story would attract attention, not just locally, but nationally, and he wanted to ensure it was told accurately. In simple, straightforward language, he described the events of the day, emphasizing Greg's racist comments and violent actions. He included screenshots from the security footage, carefully blurring out the faces of other customers to protect their privacy while leaving Greg's unmistakably visible. By evening, the press release was sent to local news outlets, social media platforms, and Marcus's professional network. Within hours, the story exploded online. People were outraged by Greg's behavior, flooding comment sections with messages of support for Maya and condemnation for him. Hashtags like Darng, Stand With Maya, and End Racism Now began trending on Twitter, amplifying the conversation beyond the confines of the small jewelry store. The backlash against Greg was swift and severe. His employer, a large corporate firm known for its progressive values, issued a statement announcing his immediate termination. "We do not tolerate discrimination or violence of any kind," the statement read. "Mr. Greg violated our code of conduct, and as such, his employment has been terminated effective immediately." Meanwhile, Greg himself became a pariah. Friends distanced themselves from him, colleagues avoided him, and even strangers recognized him thanks to the viral video. Calls for accountability grew louder, with many demanding legal consequences for his actions. While slapping someone might not always result in criminal charges, the racial motivation behind it added another layer of complexity to the case. Marcus didn't stop there. Determined to turn this painful experience into something positive, he reached out to civil rights organizations and advocacy groups. Together, they planned a campaign aimed at raising awareness about workplace discrimination and promoting inclusivity. Marcus also announced plans to host workshops at his store, inviting experts to speak about racial sensitivity and equality. At home, Marcus sat down with Maya to discuss the whirlwind of events. "This has been a lot for you to handle," he admitted, his voice filled with concern. "Are you holding up okay?" Maya sighed, leaning back against the couch. "It's overwhelming," she confessed. "But at the same time, I feel like maybe something good can come out of this. People are talking about racism in ways they weren't before. That gives me hope." Marcus nodded, pride shining in his eyes. "You've inspired so many people, Maya. You stood your ground, even when it was hard. And now, because of you, others are finding the courage to speak out too." Despite the progress being made, Maya couldn't shake the lingering unease she felt. "Do you think things will really change, Dad?" she asked quietly. "Or will people forget about this once the news cycle moves on?" Marcus placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Change doesn't happen overnight," he replied. "But every step counts. What we're doing now, raising awareness, pushing for better policies, that's how we create lasting impact. Even if some people move on, others will keep fighting, and we'll be among them." Over the next few days, life at the jewelry store slowly returned to normal, or as close to normal as possible under the circumstances. Customers continued to visit, though the atmosphere felt different. Many came bearing words of encouragement for Maya, sharing their own stories of facing discrimination and expressing gratitude for her bravery. Some even brought flowers or handwritten notes which Lisa proudly displayed near the cash register. One afternoon, an elderly woman approached Maya with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "When I saw what happened to you, it reminded me of times when I was treated unfairly because of my skin color. Seeing you stand up to that man gave me strength. Please don't ever lose that fire inside you." Maya blinked back tears, deeply moved by the woman's words. "Thank you," she whispered. "That means a lot." Despite the support pouring in, Maya still struggled with moments of doubt. Late at night, when the world grew quiet, she found herself replaying the incident over and over in her mind. What could she have done differently? Could she have avoided provoking Greg? These questions haunted her, but Marcus was always there to remind her that none of this was her fault. "You did nothing wrong," he insisted one evening as they sat together in the living room. "Greg chose to act the way he did because of his own prejudices, not because of anything you said or did. Don't let him make you question yourself." Maya nodded, though she wasn't entirely convinced. Still, she appreciated her father's unwavering support. With his guidance, she began channeling her emotions into something productive. She started journaling about her experiences, hoping to share her story with others who might be facing similar challenges. She also volunteered with local youth groups, mentoring teenagers and encouraging them to embrace their identities and speak out against injustice. As for Greg, his life spiraled further out of control. Unable to find another job due to the negative publicity surrounding him, he became increasingly isolated. Rumors circulated that he had tried reaching out to Marcus to apologize, but Marcus refused to engage. An apology isn't enough, he told Lisa during one of their conversations. He needs to understand the harm he caused and work to change his mindset. Until then, there's nothing to discuss. The community rallied around Maya and her family, organizing fundraisers and events to celebrate diversity and inclusion. One particularly memorable evening featured speeches, music, and art created by local artists. Maya delivered a heartfelt speech thanking everyone for their support and urging them to continue fighting for equality. "We can't let fear or hate divide us," she said, her voice steady despite the crowd of hundreds gathered before her. "We're stronger together, and as long as we stand united, we can overcome anything." Her words earned a standing ovation, cementing her status as a symbol of resilience and hope. For Marcus, watching his daughter inspire so many people filled him with immense pride. He knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but he also knew they had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the weeks that followed, the jewelry store became more than just a place to buy beautiful accessories. It became a beacon of hope and unity. Customers from all walks of life visited, drawn not only by the exquisite pieces on display but also by the powerful message of love and acceptance that emanated from within its walls. And through it all, Maya and Marcus stood side by side, ready to face the future together. Whatever storms awaited them, they knew they could weather them, as long as they had each other and the unwavering belief that justice and kindness would ultimately prevail. The story of Greg's racist outburst and Maya's courage spread far beyond the confines of the jewelry store. What had started as a single incident in a quiet corner of the city quickly became a catalyst for broader conversations about racism, workplace discrimination, and accountability. Marcus Carter's decision to share the security footage and speak publicly about what happened amplified the impact, turning it into a national conversation. News outlets picked up the story, framing it as a pivotal moment in the ongoing fight against prejudice. Talk shows invited experts to discuss how businesses could better address discriminatory behavior among employees and customers alike. Social media platforms buzzed with hashtags like Badang Stand with Maya, End Racism Now, and Accountability Matters, drawing attention not only to Maya's experience but also to countless other stories of racial injustice that had gone unnoticed or unaddressed. For Maya, this newfound visibility was both empowering and overwhelming. On one hand, she felt grateful for the outpouring of support from strangers who shared their own experiences of facing racism. Their messages reminded her that she wasn't alone, that there was an entire community of people standing beside her. But on the other hand, the constant spotlight made it hard to escape the memory of that day. Every time someone mentioned her name online or praised her bravery, she couldn't help but relive the humiliation of being slapped by Greg. Marcus noticed the toll it was taking on his daughter. One evening, after another long day of interviews and public appearances, he found her sitting alone on the porch staring at the horizon. "Hey," he said softly, sitting down beside her. "You've been quiet lately. Want to talk about it?" Maya hesitated before responding. "It's just, sometimes I feel like everyone expects me to be this perfect symbol of strength, you know? Like I'm supposed to have all the answers or always stay positive. But the truth is, I'm still processing everything. Some days, I feel strong. Other days, I feel angry or scared." Marcus nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. "It's okay to feel those things," he told her gently. "No one expects you to be perfect, not even me. All I want is for you to be honest about how you're feeling. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to scream, scream. And if you need to step away from all this attention for a while, that's okay too. This isn't just about making a statement, it's about healing." Maya looked at him, tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't want to let anyone down," she admitted quietly. "You're not letting anyone down," Marcus reassured her. "In fact, you're doing the opposite. By sharing your story, even the messy parts, you're showing others that it's okay to be vulnerable. That's where real change happens." Encouraged by her father's words, Maya decided to take a short break from the media frenzy. She turned down a few interview requests and spent more time focusing on herself, whether it was journaling, painting, or simply spending time outdoors. During these moments of solitude, she began reflecting on the lessons she'd learned over the past few weeks. One thing became clear. She didn't want this incident to define her. While it had undoubtedly shaped her perspective, she refused to let it overshadow her dreams or limit her potential. Instead, she chose to channel her energy into creating something meaningful, a platform where people could share their stories of overcoming adversity and find resources to combat racism. Gilberbois. Marcus's help, Maya launched a website called Voices Unite. The site featured personal essays, videos, and artwork submitted by individuals from diverse backgrounds, each telling their unique story of resilience. It also included links to organizations working to end discrimination, as well as educational materials designed to promote empathy and understanding. The response was overwhelming. Within days of launching, Voices Unite attracted thousands of visitors. People flooded the site with submissions, eager to contribute their voices to the growing movement. Teachers used the content in classrooms to spark discussions about race and equality. Community leaders incorporated it into workshops aimed at fostering inclusivity. Even corporations reached out asking permission to use the materials in employee training programs. Seeing the impact of Voices Unite reignited Maya's passion for activism. She realized that while she couldn't control what had happened, to her she could use her experience to inspire others and drive meaningful change. For the first time since the incident, she felt a sense of purpose, one that extended far beyond the walls of the jewelry store. Meanwhile, Marcus continued advocating for systemic change within his own business and beyond. He partnered with civil rights organizations to draft stricter anti-discrimination policies for workplaces, ensuring that incidents like the one involving Greg would never happen again. These policies included mandatory diversity training for employees, clear guidelines for addressing complaints of racism, and consequences for those who violated the rules. Marcus also implemented new initiatives at his store to create a safer and more inclusive environment. He introduced a zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior, posting signs near the entrance to inform customers of the rules. Additionally, he hired a counselor to provide free mental health support for employees who might be struggling with issues related to discrimination or trauma. Word of Marcus's efforts spread quickly, earning him recognition as a leader in the fight against racism. He was invited to speak at conferences, universities, and corporate events, where he shared his vision for a world free of prejudice. His speeches often ended with the same rallying cry: "We can't wait for change to happen. We have to make it happen. Together." Despite the progress being made, Marcus remained acutely aware of the challenges ahead. Racism wasn't something that could be eradicated overnight. It was deeply ingrained in society, perpetuated by centuries of inequality and ignorance. But he believed that every small victory mattered, whether it was calling out a racist comment, supporting a victim of discrimination, or educating oneself about different cultures and perspectives. One afternoon, as Marcus sat in his office reviewing feedback from recent workshops, Lisa knocked on the door. "Mr. Carter," she said hesitantly, "can I talk to you for a minute?" "Of course," Marcus replied, gesturing for her to sit down. "What's on your mind?" Lisa took a deep breath before speaking. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened with Maya and Greg," she began, "and I realized I haven't always been as vocal about standing up against racism as I should be. I mean, I knew Greg was acting strangely, but I didn't say anything until it was too late. I froze, and because of that, Maya got hurt." Marcus listened patiently, nodding as she spoke. "It's natural to feel regret when you think about what you could have done differently," he said. "But beating yourself up won't change the past. What matters is what you do moving forward. That's why I wanted to talk to you," Lisa continued. "I want to do more. To be better, I've signed up for some online courses about racial sensitivity, and I'm volunteering with a local organization that fights discrimination. I don't want to stand by silently ever again." Marcus smiled, genuinely impressed by her determination. "That's fantastic, Lisa," he said, Taking action is the best way to honor Maya's courage. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about trying. And based on what you've told me, it sounds like you're already doing great work. Lisa left the office feeling lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. Over the following weeks, she threw herself into her studies and volunteer work, determined to grow both personally and professionally. Her newfound commitment inspired her colleagues, many of whom followed suit by seeking out opportunities to educate themselves and support marginalized communities. As the months passed, the ripple effects of Maya's story continued to spread. Schools incorporated her experience into curriculums, teaching students about the importance of standing up against injustice. Artists created murals and songs dedicated to her bravery, ensuring that her message of hope and resilience would endure for generations to come. Even Greg, whose life had unraveled after the incident, found himself grappling with the consequences of his actions. Unable to secure steady employment due to his tarnished reputation, he eventually sought counseling to confront the biases that had fueled his behavior. While some dismissed his efforts as too little, too late, others argued that redemption was possible if earned through genuine remorse and sustained effort. Through it all, Maya and Marcus remained steadfast in their mission to promote equality and justice. They attended rallies, gave speeches, and collaborated with activists to push for legislative changes that would protect victims of discrimination. Though the journey was far from over, they approached each challenge with unwavering resolve, knowing that every step brought them closer to a brighter future. By standing together, they proved that even in the face of hatred and fear, love and unity could prevail. And as the doors of the jewelry store reopened each morning, welcoming diverse faces from all walks of life, it was clear that the legacy of Maya's courage would continue to inspire countless others for years to come. Months had passed since the incident in the jewelry store, but its impact lingered like ripples spreading across a calm pond. What began as a single act of racism had transformed into a movement, a wave of awareness and change that touched lives far beyond what anyone could have imagined. For Maya and Marcus Carter, it marked not just an end to one chapter but the beginning of another, one filled with hope, purpose, and renewed determination. The jewelry store itself became a symbol of resilience and inclusivity. Customers who once visited merely for its exquisite pieces now came because they admired the values it represented. The zero-tolerance policy posted near the entrance served as a reminder that everyone, regardless of their background, was welcome within its walls. Employees greeted visitors warmly, fostering an atmosphere of respect and belonging. Even regular patrons noticed the shift. Conversations about beauty and craftsmanship often intertwined with discussions about equality and justice. Maya, now, more confident than ever, embraced her role as a leader in this new era. Her website, Voices Unite, continued to thrive, growing into a global platform where people shared stories of overcoming adversity. Submissions poured in daily, from teenagers recounting their struggles with bullying to elderly individuals reflecting on decades of systemic racism. Each story added depth to the collective narrative, reminding readers that while experiences varied, the fight for dignity and fairness united them all. One particularly moving submission came from a young boy named Jamal, whose family had fled war-torn Syria years earlier. In his essay, Jamal described how he'd been teased at school for his accent and clothing until a teacher intervened, teaching his classmates about empathy and cultural diversity. Inspired by Jamal's courage, Maya featured his story prominently on the homepage, along with a heartfelt message urging others to support immigrant communities. Marcus, too, found himself deeply engaged in advocating for change. His partnerships with civil rights organizations yielded tangible results, including stricter anti-discrimination laws passed at the state level. Companies large and small adopted the policies he helped draft, ensuring that employees and customers alike were protected from prejudice. At conferences and seminars, Marcus spoke passionately about the importance of accountability, not just in words, but in actions. "We can't afford to be passive," he told audiences during one keynote speech. "Racism isn't just someone else's problem, it's ours. It thrives when we stay silent, when we turn a blind eye to injustice. But when we speak up, when we take a stand, we send a powerful message. Enough is enough. His words resonated, deeply inspiring countless listeners to examine their own biases and commit to making meaningful changes in their communities. Teachers, business owners, and even government officials approached him afterward, eager to learn how they could contribute to the cause. Despite the progress being made, Maya and Marcus knew the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth. Racism was a deeply entrenched issue, rooted in centuries of inequality and ignorance. There would still be moments of frustration, setbacks, and resistance. But neither of them doubted that the momentum they'd created would endure. For Maya, this belief was reaffirmed one crisp autumn morning when she received an email from a woman named Sarah. Attached to the message was a photo of Sarah standing proudly outside the jewelry store, holding a sign that read, "Thank you, Maya, for inspiring me." In her note, Sarah explained how Maya's story had motivated her to confront her own prejudices and become an ally in the fight against racism. Touched by the gesture, Maya printed the photo and pinned it to the bulletin board in her office. Beside it, she placed other mementos, letters from supporters, drawings sent by children, and screenshots of social media posts celebrating milestones achieved through Voices Unite. Together, these items formed a collage of gratitude and solidarity, a testament to the power of collective action. That same afternoon, Marcus joined Maya in her office to discuss upcoming plans for the holiday season. As they sat together brainstorming ideas, Marcus couldn't help but marvel at how much his daughter had grown over the past year. Gone was the shy teenager who hesitated to voice her opinions. In her place stood a confident young woman unafraid to challenge the status quo. "You've come so far," Marcus said, smiling warmly. "I'm incredibly proud of everything you've accomplished." Maya blushed slightly, though her eyes sparkled with pride. "We couldn't have done any of this without your support, Dad," she replied. "You've been my rock through all of it." Marcus chuckled softly. "Well, I'll always be here for you. But remember, this isn't just our journey. It belongs to everyone who stood with us. We're part of something bigger than ourselves." As they finalized their plans, which included hosting a community event at the store featuring local artists and activists, Maya reflected on how far they'd come. The pain of that fateful day had not disappeared entirely, but it no longer defined her. Instead, it fueled her resolve to create a world where such incidents would become rare exceptions rather than common occurrences. The community event turned out to be a resounding success. Hundreds of people gathered inside and outside the jewelry store, enjoying performances, art exhibits, and panel discussions centered around themes of unity and equality. Children painted murals depicting their visions of a harmonious future, while adults exchanged contact information, vowing to collaborate on projects aimed at dismantling systemic racism. During the closing ceremony, Maya took the stage to deliver a speech. Clutching the microphone tightly, she scanned the crowd, her heart swelling with emotion. "When I first walked into this store as an intern," she began, her voice steady despite the lump forming in her throat, "I never imagined that my life would change so dramatically. I certainly didn't expect to face the kind of hatred that tried to tear me down. But I also didn't expect to discover the incredible strength and love that exists within this community." She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. "This journey hasn't been easy, for me, for my family, or for anyone who's dared to stand up against injustice. But every step has been worth it because each of us is planting seeds of change. Seeds that will grow into trees of equality, sheltering generations to come." The audience erupted into applause, many rising to their feet in admiration. Among them was Lisa, tears streaming down her face as she cheered alongside her colleagues. Nearby, Marcus watched with a mixture of pride and awe, knowing that his daughter had truly found her calling. As the evening drew to a close, Maya and Marcus stood side by side, gazing out at the sea of faces illuminated by string lights strung across the store's facade. Strangers mingled with friends, laughter mingled with heartfelt conversations, and hope mingled with determination. It was a scene neither of them would forget, a vivid reminder that even in the darkest times, light could shine through. The weeks and months that followed, the Carters continued their work, undeterred by challenges and emboldened by victories. They expanded Voices Unite to include resources for mental health support, recognizing the toll that discrimination took on individuals' well-being. Marcus spearheaded initiatives to mentor young entrepreneurs from underrepresented backgrounds, helping them build businesses rooted in inclusivity and equity. And Maya? She pursued her dreams with unwavering passion, enrolling in college to study sociology and human rights. Her ultimate goal was to become a lawyer specializing in civil rights cases, ensuring that justice reached those who needed it most. As they looked toward the future, father and daughter knew that the fight against racism was far from over, but they also knew that they weren't alone. Together, with the support of a growing network of allies, they were building a legacy of love, courage, and resilience, one that would inspire countless others to join the fight. Because in the end, it wasn't just about confronting hate. It was about proving that love and unity could triumph, even in the face of adversity. And as long as there were people willing to stand together, the promise of a brighter, fairer world remained within reach.